Well, I already came out this week in 2023 swinging with some wild videos. And this is going to be a great year with everything coming up from the Genius Garage IndyCar and Lotus Formula One car, of course, my Dodge Viper track build, and whatever kooky duke concoction, creation, or thing I want to talk about comes up. But today I want to talk about the world's only turbine-powered Batmobile. Yeah, why not? Which is a creation of mine from, oh gosh, about a little more than 10 years ago now. It's actually slated to be auctioned off at Barrett Jackson later in January, I think out in Scottsdale. Now, I actually don't have any connection to that. No one called me or anything like that. And I know that Hoovie, or Tyler Hoover from Hoovie's Garage, typically has stuff going on with Barrett Jackson. They already did a great video on Barrett Jackson, and it made an appearance on Hoovie's Garage, I think when he did something with Jay Leno, perhaps. But anyway, I just thought I'd give you guys kind of a story about that car, and I'm actually going to do the Casey's Canon, which is a fancy word for I'm going to tell a lot of stories about all my past cars, at the urging of Ed Bolian, who thinks that I really need to do that on my channel. So I'm going to do it. But anyway, the world's only turbine-powered Batmobile of VinWiki story fame, and also has been on my channel a few years back, kind of weirdly. So I thought I would tell some of the story relating to not so much of building it, because those adventures are on VinWiki, but also like what was its life and what's the weird filling in the gaps between then and now, because the car does not belong to me. It hasn't belonged to me in a long period of time. And what is it going to sell for? Could it sell for $1 million? Yeah, it could. It could sell for more. That car is worth whatever people are going to want to pay for it, because again, it is the world's only turbine-powered Batmobile. Okay, well, first, what does that mean? Well, it's powered by a turbo shaft engine out of a drone anti-submarine helicopter, or Dash, as the military called it back in the day. That particular drone helicopter is from the Vietnam era. Yeah, I'm talking 1960s drone helicopter. You didn't think that existed, did you? Well, it would launch from ships in the sea, and it would carry 2 torpedoes, I think 50 to 100 miles away, to drop on enemy submarines, and it was operated by radio frequency and had 2 counter-rotating propellers, much like the early drones that people played with in like the 2000s, before, of course, radio control got really, really good. Of course, this is the 60s, and it was a turbine engine. Now, that particular turbine engine, when I started to look into those and what could possibly be available, left over, you know, military surplus, all that jazz, because, of course, I had the idea to build the replica of the 1989 Michael Keaton, Tim Burton era Batmobile, which, of course, is the best Batmobile, yes. And I say that because, of course, it was evocative for children of my generation. But more so than that, that was the first Batman where it became kind of dark, kind of serious, but still had that abstract, vibey Tim Burton art feel. And it was really a masterpiece of the time and just meant a lot to everybody. But of course, the Batmobiles is portrayed even in the Adam West 1960 TV show, as well the Tim Burton film I'm speaking of, and all the later varieties, most of which sucked in the 90s and 2000s, and then got a little better when they were kind of dark with the Christian Bale Tumblr aspect, although the Batmobile is not very sexy. Anyway, they were all turbine powered because that's cool, military, right? But all the cars and props that existed before that time were just boring, junky props on like a stretched Impala chassis, and maybe they had electric motors, or maybe they had like a junky Chevy V8 in it or something like that. And they just weren't very good. No one had been making anything better. You know, in my background relating to sports cars and vintage race cars and stuff, I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna make something cool. Now, the turbine-powered Batmobile I built, the chassis, bulkheads, and parts of the suspension relate to the Corvette C4, which is very available. Of course, I had full airbag suspension and is massively modified from that time. Hoovie actually said something like, you can tell it's built on a C4. I'm like, no, you can't, Hoovie. There's nothing about it that remotely relates to a C4, and you're just saying that because that's a tidbit of information you know, and you're trying to relate to the public that you know something about it. No offense, but you don't. And I'm really surprised they, well, it's neither here nor there, but the car is very specialized in its operation, and there are things that you don't want to happen to it because it would not be good for a myriad of reasons. But anyway, so turbine engines, there's loads of ones out there. Ones that make like 1,500, 2,000 horsepower from like crazy big helicopters and stuff would not be ideal for a car, albeit a big car like the Batmobile. So the one I found, I really narrowed it down to basically 2 reasonably available turboshaft engines. Mine was the Boeing, I think T50 is what it was called. It's basically like a giant centrifugal supercharger sort of affair with 2 combustion chambers that then goes into its driving turbines, and how this works is, guys, a turbojet engine creates massive compression and therefore thrust into the atmosphere to move a jet through the air. Okay, that's what a turbojet engine is. It burns fuel, compresses all the air with loads and loads of turbines, and goes whoosh and blows you through the air. A turboshaft engine, the difference is, and this is what's used in a helicopter or a car to drive the wheels, it is the same thing as a turbojet engine. In fact, you can take a turboshaft and convert it to a turbojet engine, albeit not that efficiently, but it's been done. It takes all that compression and thrust, but instead of blowing it into the atmosphere, it blows it against other turbines, which spin a shaft and potentially like planetary gears to reduce the shaft speed, because this stuff spins real fast. My old car idles at 20,000 RPMs, as an example. And then that drives an output shaft that you can use for mechanical advantage, for either a, helicopter or a boat or a train or a car. I use it as a car, the Batmobile. And what I did is I coupled the output aspect of the turboshaft engine. Now, mind you, the turboshaft engine has exhaust that comes out the side, and I ducted that out the side. So basically it has side pipes. They're 8 inches in diameter, and I don't remember the exhaust gas temperature when it's running properly, but it's hot. There was one time when a dingbat guy that was very helpful, and I appreciate him coming up, ran up to me to try to listen to me to help direct me at this event, and he was wearing shorts, and he had very fuzzy, hairy legs. And I can tell you that he started jumping around like a flea on a hot plate, and he ran away. And then later that day, I heard that he no longer had very fuzzy, hairy legs. That's neither here nor there. So I took that engine and I adapted it to a modified General Motors 4-speed automatic transmission, which is manually shifted. So the deal with the engine is you have 2 tachometers in the car. One is for your compressor speed, or how fast the turbine is spinning. And then your other tachometer is how fast the output shaft of the engine is spinning. Now, that engine was rated from 0 to 6,000 RPMs. Oh, what does that sound like? A car? Yes, which made it relatively simple for me to adapt. Notice I said relatively simple, and that's from the guy that built the world's only turbine-powered Batmobile. I'm not patting myself on the back. It's all relative. Anyway, so the first one would tell you thrust, how much power you're going to make. And it doesn't just instantaneously build or lower thrust. Now, that's connected to your throttle or your gas pedal. The second one is basically just your output shaft speed. Now, that one is when it tells you need to shift so you don't overspeed things. The other thing is the car needs to be started and shut down in gear, drive. You don't want to do it in neutral or park, because what will happen is, even at idle, it'll be blowing thrust, whoosh, and it will overspeed the turbine. So you need to have the drag of it being in gear in it. So when you have to shift from like first through neutral to reverse, you just do it kind of quick, because it's not going to overspeed when it's in neutral for that like half second or whatever. So that's how you drive it, and brakes brake. And if you want to pull away or come out of a corner quick, you need to power brake to build the thrust to come out of it. It doesn't have like a giant wastegate. So it is what it is. Turboshaft engines are not ideal for ground operations in terms of cars, where you speed up and slow down without using ridiculous amounts of fuel or having a giant wastegate, like in the aspect of the Helmut McKee turbine race car of the 1960s. But it's still usable, and it's super cool, and it's a functioning real-world driving aspect of the Batmobile, replicating it. Of course, the machine guns on it are replicas of the Browning .30 calibers that were used in the movie. Now, these are not real machine guns, but they were machined from steel and aluminum and such to be exact replicas. And there's no receiver in it, so you cannot load ammunition in it, making it legal to have as a prop. But what it does have is a combustion chamber and 2 electromechanical solenoids on a computer-controlled circuit with a spark plug, so that when you hit that button, you're feeding oxygen and propane to it. So what it does is it's actually exploding. It's firing at the same cadence of the machine gun. And when it's low light conditions out there, you see the muzzle flash, which is really cool. And you simply adjust the pressures a little bit to change the mixture of the oxygen and the propane to get the right bang and fire, shall we say. So that was a really neat aspect of it too. But beyond that, it's a car. It's a big car. It's cool. It's got airbag suspension. You raise and lower it. The sliding canopy. Had to make that and figure out how to fabricate all that sort of thing. Basically just out of my mind, you know, like old school hot rodders did. And it came out great. You know, when I built that, I was living in Columbus, Ohio in a condo. I don't know, I had a motorcycle and I think my Dodge Viper back then. And it was just my crazy idea, right? And I built it in a little shop where a guy housed a number of Highland, like vintage race cars and a Formula One car and such for a client of his. And he gave me some space to, you know, build my silly Batmobile because he was probably lonely other than the shop mouse that he later had to kick out the shop mouse because it was putting peanuts in the F1 exhaust. It's neither here nor there. Yeah, that's what I did. It was just one of those times in my life where I had a great idea and vision to do something that hadn't been done that resonated with my heart as a young person in the culture of Batman and the film and excitement. And I just made my wild, cool art piece and really enjoyed it. You know, it's been over a decade ago. I don't intend to ever build another one. It was just a wild adventure I did. It was a lot of fun. So we'll see what it brings. But since that period of time, I did sell it shortly thereafter because as a young man, you know, you got things to do. It wasn't really the most economical thing to go like commute to the grocery store in, and it's got a trunk, but you're not going to use it, you know? So, you know, I move on with my life and car collecting and fun. So it's been a long time since I owned it. Now, for the sake of privacy of people, I'm not going to divulge too much, but I can tell you that it did live in Las Vegas for a long time. Very nice man purchased it, a collector, an enthusiast, an eccentric mechanical guy that liked things like that and cultures. And he enjoyed it. It was actually really embarrassing to me because the first time he got to see it, I flew out there and, you know, his people were there and I fired it up and drove it to a nearby lot. Actually, it was the lot in the movie The Hangover where I think like the Chinese guy like busts out of the trunk and hits him with a crowbar. And it's neither here nor there, but it's where we were. And to take some pictures of it. And then we hop in it, and the guy who bought it hops in it with me to ride back to his place. And I go to fire it up, and the igniter box is conked out, which has since been fixed with better igniter boxes, which I'm assuming are the ones that are on it today. But hey, Hoovie, if you go to fire that thing up, watch the exhaust gas temperature and make sure it's clicking, click, 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 because it's not clicking and the exhaust gas temperature goes up. You need to shut it off right now so you don't hot start it out and screw the old engine. I don't think any of the people that are messing around with it knows that, and it makes me cringe because I don't think they know what they're doing other than they know the procedure to start it up. So like, guys, you need to know if something goes wrong, what's going wrong, so you can stop doing it. You don't screw things up, which kind of annoys me. But I gotta say, I take some pride in the fact that it's still banging like a champ 10 years later with somebody like Hoovie who breaks everything in it, which is a testament to being a good car. And the reason why, if you're thinking of buying it, you probably should, because if Tyler Hoover can drive it around. So he had it for a long time, really enjoyed it. And then when it was at my shop a couple years back, and I was like, hey, selling it, and some money will go to Genius Garage or whatever. The deal was that I never hardly talked to the dude that owned it. He had a lot of money, and he was a nice eccentric collector. It was very private, so I was always talking to his right-hand man, and his right-hand man's like, okay, whatever. Okay, so I can sell it or market it for you. So they just send it out. I'm like, okay. Which is annoying after a while because it takes up a fair amount of space. And it's not my car. I'm not going to go drive around it. They never gave me a license plate or proof of insurance or anything. So I got this thing. I can't really drive legally anywhere to showcase it, which is kind of annoying. And of course, right-hand mans that work for rich guys, they always want to tell you what to do, and they're unreasonable because they want to be the hero to the rich guy, which is always annoying. So they wanted too much money for it. It was kind of annoying to me because like, he's like, oh no, we got to get at least this. I'm like, okay, so you want double what I sold it to you. Yeah, okay. No, it's neither here nor there, but read into that whatever you want. And they said that they would donate a portion of it or whatever to Genius Garage. But to be honest, if that worked out, who knows what they would have done or anything, because you know how people are. So I don't know if I was the right guy. And after a short period of time, I told him, I'm like, look, I think you need, I actually told him straight up, I'm like, you need to send this to Barrett Jackson like in January. That's the best place to send this where we can roll the most PR and the most everything for it. And you're like, no, 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 you need to sell it. I'm like, okay, why? Why do I need to be the guy to sell it? Like, do that. That's the best thing. That's how you're gonna get the most money. And then so what then happened, there was a dealership in Columbus where it was at for a short time. It was a toy barn. And damn, did they screw me over. Basically, the guy that owned it just wanted to show it off. So he's like, yeah, we'll sell it for you, blah, 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 because he wanted to show it off. And so they listed on their site for sale and all. And keep in mind, I don't own it at this point. I told the guy, and they were cool with that it's going down there. And it turns out they can't even legally sell a car they don't even own in Ohio. It's like consignment. And the other thing is the dealership was going to give space for there to be the nonprofit Genius Garage also in Columbus. And I had a really good friend as a police officer who was going to lead that. I was going to send the yellow Corvette down there. And then after they got done and bored with showing off the Batmobile and like probably weren't actually trying to sell it, they just put it up so I would think they were. They're like, yeah, we're done. We can't sell it. Get it out of here. And oh, by the way, get the Corvette out too. And I'm like, oh, so you're screwing us on Genius Garage and you're screwing me on that. Thanks. Which is funny because they said they weren't showing it off, but there's like literally videos of them putting people in stuff, which drove me nuts because it was a really specialized machine and you shouldn't just letting the general public hop in it without a little bit of a briefing. That's not to say that it's like kooky or something, but you don't just let goobers hop in a fighter jet. You know what I'm saying? So that sucked. And the thing about the Batmobile is it's fairly large and the trailer that I had was not wide enough to put the thing in because the Batmobile is very wide. And actually, a little unbeknown thing, the 1989 movie, Batman, and then Batman Returns a couple years later, the Batman Returns Batmobile was actually like 2 or 3 inches narrower, I think, on both sides. Because the first Batmobile in 89 was so wide, they couldn't put it like in any trailers. So the one I have is actually the slightly narrower one from Batman Returns, although that's a super geek detail. But it was too wide for my trailer. And it took a semi-trailer to pick it up from my shop to get it to the dealership in Columbus. And then they screwed us. And then I had no transportation to get it anywhere. So, whatever, I'll just say it. So like my police officer friend, he kindly followed me. And I just hopped in the Batmobile, fired up the turbine, hoped there was enough jet fuel in it. And I drove it to an undisclosed location somewhere in Ohio where you'd never find it. So if you see in my own video about driving the Batmobile and how to do it and why I have a really mad look on my face, it's because I got screwed by a dealership that just wanted to use me and my own exposure notoriety in the Batmobile by telling me tall tales so they can take advantage of it. And then I was in a bad position because now I have to do something with this Batmobile and it's like a lot farther from my home that I really want to drive some other guy's Batmobile. And also, if you remember, he never sent me a license plate or proof of insurance. So it's like, I'll just drive this Vietnam era military drone anti-submarine helicopter engine powered Batmobile in broad daylight through Ohio to somewhere, which is funny because it's Ohio and nobody well, I mean, people look twice, but it wasn't a problem. That's why I like living in Ohio. You guys have fun in California. Remember the Instagram memes? It's like, modified wheels, jail. Exhaust, straight to jail. Stickers, jail. Like, anyway, Ohio's way cooler. So anyway, the Batmobile went there, I was quiet, and I was telling the guys, I'm like, look, you need to listen to me. You need to send it to Barrett Jackson. They never did. And then they were not communicating. You know how it is. You got a super rich guy and you got a right-hand man and you got some eccentric builder guy in Ohio that, you know, everybody wants to take advantage of and don't care about. That's how it works. All the mechanics and the creative guys get crapped on until the rich guys want to make money off something, then they say they're really great. So I just told them, I'm like, look, I have gone out of my way, bending over backwards for you guys. Like, you're not paying me. I'm done. Like, here's where the car is. Here's the undisclosed location. It's your car. You pick it up. Here's access. I'm done. You've got until this amount of time. And that was that. And I washed my hands of it because I was not being treated well by the person orchestrating this. Not so much the guy who owned it, who I like, but the guy orchestrating it. Didn't appreciate it. So the car was gone. I didn't think anything of it. And then I think it was like a year later or within a year later. This is fairly recently. Somebody else got it because he bought like part of a car collection from that guy or part of a collection that came with it. And he wondered if I wanted to work on it or sell it. I'm like, no, this is what you should do with it. And then I heard it was in Scottsdale at the airport at an FBO. But a lot of people have enjoyed seeing it, enjoying it. So I know I sound a little salty, but that's just because It's annoying being the creative person that builds stuff and then kind of getting taken advantage of. And that's also why I dog on a lot of car flippers, because it's like, you didn't build it, you don't know how to drive, you're just trying to make money off other people, and you're kind of ruining the hobby because now all the cars get stuck away in collections and not driven. Which is the reason why I'm gonna hang on to the Murcielago forever and drive it, because those will get inflated to the moon, then you'll never see them again one day. So the Batmobile was a really cool journey and thing to build. I enjoyed it, you know, I'm proud of it. It came out really well, and I never would have imagined that 10 years later people would still care. Or would still be around. It would still be making press and all that. And honestly, I really can't take any credit for that, because that's just because I built a look-alike, or, you know, a replica to the Batmobile. So, you know, credit where credit is due. That was a cultural story and icon. I just happened to take it 10 steps further than anybody thought, and just become real Bruce Wayne tech and get a little wild with some old military junk. And yes, I bought the jet engine on eBay. Where else am I gonna get it from? But that's it, guys. It was a really exciting journey back then when I was younger and doing that and building it alone. You know, I wasn't married back then. I hadn't yet done Genius Garage. I hadn't become a YouTuber. I was just a young guy chasing my dreams and having fun. So I'm excited to see it at Barrett Jackson here shortly. I'm excited that Tyler Hoover is talking about it and representing. I think he did a great job. And by the way, guys, I'm always going to nitpick on people and kind of poke them. It's called like car guy shop racer military humor. Like, I'm not picking on people, but it's just my fun. Yeah, I'm excited. I think Barrett Jackson's doing a great job of representing it. You know, I'm proud that the thing that I created a long time ago is something that people really enjoy seeing and being part of and showcasing. So that's really it. Just wanted to talk about it. Who knows? Maybe I'll get to do something with Barrett Jackson one day or whatnot, but you know, Tyler's doing a great job. So I don't know. I don't typically go out to auctions like that because I typically buy my vehicles privately. But I do see now and then there's a lot of great deals at auctions, so that would be fun to do. But usually come January, I'm building and stuff. So that's it, but we'll see what happens. Who knows what it'll go for, but I know that someone is gonna be a very happy new owner of what may be the coolest custom car on the planet. Yeah, I think there's a good chance that's the coolest custom car on the planet. Huh. Anyway, see you guys next time.